Hey everyone, what up? Matt Kaiser here. Square Enix. Square Enix, Square Enix, Square Enix. Now, of course, being the powerhouse JRPG company they are, for this decade they have been making some W's and L's. And they have been doing some changes, like, for example, getting rid of mostly their Western division and also getting into NFTs. Yikes. But they've also been doing some things like trying to revive older RPGs of theirs and even get into, like, say, the HD 2D market. But of course, there's one big major thing that's actually exciting from Square Enix. And if you want to know, and just before I talk about that, if you're into RPGs, JRPGs, all that good stuff, then please click that subscribe button and click that bell for notifications so you don't want to miss anything. Anyway, back to the video. And the topic I will be talking about is basically looking at the major big franchises with their recent upcoming titles, that being Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts. And the offerings they got shown for us is Dragon Quest XII, The Flames of Fate, Kingdom Hearts 4, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Final Fantasy XVI. And of course, I think the one we should start is the one that we have kind of the least amount of information at the moment. Now, the Dragon Quest series have been doing well, actually, very well actually, with them, of course, with the last mainline entry known as Dragon Quest XI Definitive Edition being both a critical and commercial success, doing really well in Japan and gaining, new audiences and also appeasing to fans, all that stuff. And they've been on a roll recently with Dragon Quest X getting new updates in a new offline mode, though sadly no Western release as of yet, sadly. Not only that, but they also released stuff like Dragon Quest Treasures, which is a Switch exclusive spin-off featuring, Eric and Mia from Dragon Quest XI. And of course they had, their two upcoming Dragon Quest games, all of which was revealed at their 35th anniversary back in 2021. One, of course, is Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, which is, as I said, an HD 2D remake done in a similar vein that was done by, the same team that did Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, Live Alive Remake, and Triangle Strategy. And yeah, the game looks awesome, and Dragon Quest III is now 35 years old. It's one of the best JRPGs of all time, and one of the best Dragon Quest games, and that game looks exciting. Hopefully it gets a release date this year and we see more of it, cause man, it looks so good. But of course, the other game they also showed in that anniversary stream was, of course, Dragon Quest XII, The Flames of Fate. And the interesting thing is the direction and what kind of game it is and what this game will have. Now, this game is going to said to have Unreal Engine 5, and yeah, it's one of the first JRPGs to be confirmed using Unreal Engine 5. Not only that, but the story has been said to be fully complete. Not only that, but they'll have things like this game will be into a more darker, more mature themed one, and you'll have important story choices that actually affect the whole story, so it's not more than just having a simple yes or no thing where even if you press no, the choices don't really matter. And lastly, the thing is, they'll also add some changes to the command style combat. Now, of course, that gave people some speculation, and admittedly, well, some really took it too far on what this could mean, especially something, just be, switching the combat to real-time action, just like what Final Fantasy is doing, though I doubt that is the case, and multiple reasons alluding to that can be found by Psych Chief, who's done some good evidence on why Dragon Quest XII will most likely just still remain turn-based. but of course they'll do different changes to the combat. I mean, Dragon Quest XI, from my knowledge, had this freeform mode where you can position characters into better spots, even though it didn't really affect the gameplay that much. So hopefully what changes they'll do to this game will be exciting. And yeah, Dragon Quest XII, a more darker, more mature game, impactful story choices, Unreal Engine 5, as well as adding changes to the combat system, all of which does really sound exciting, and Dragon Quest fans really are keen for this. Now all we know is that this game is being co-developed by the main Dragon Quest team and Hexadrive. I believe the other half of Dragon Quest team is also doing the remake with Team Asano. And this game really looks ambitious from what we've seen now. I mean, we just saw a logo out. Hopefully we do see this, and knowing Dragon Quest, it does seem that I think this game will be making its way to next gen consoles, likely PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and most likely even a Nintendo Switch Pro or the next Nintendo system, since Dragon Quest and also Nintendo are buddies at this point. So yeah, overall Dragon Quest XII really is shaping up to be something very, very interesting, and I can't wait to see more of it, hopefully soon. Now we get to Kingdom Hearts. Now with Kingdom Hearts is also into a very interesting bold of direction and new step. We just finished the whole Darkseeker saga with Kingdom Hearts 3. Even if people were mixed about it, some loved it, some were disappointed by it, everyone loved it. And of course, that we already got into the new saga with things like Melody of Memory, Dark Road, and we're gonna get more into things like Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, and of course Kingdom Hearts 4, which were revealed at the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary event, which happened last year. There's also Kingdom Hearts on Cloud Switch port, but we don't talk about that shit. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Kingdom Hearts 4. And the fact that Kingdom Hearts 4 I'm even talking about it is crazy, considering the fact that how long it took to get Kingdom Hearts 3 ever since Kingdom Hearts 2 was out. It was just wow, it was just oh my god, it's crazy. Whereas the bridge between those two games is humongous. We had so many spin-off, bridge titles to say the least, that filled the gaps to get prepared for Kingdom Hearts 3, and also re-releases of past games and all that stuff. But hearing that it's not going to be the same effect with Kingdom Hearts 4, sometime soon we'll get this game, is really just mind-boggling. And Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to an interesting direction. I mean, it's now going to a new type of world. Instead of the whole original worlds and the Disney worlds, it's going to a new universe where it's mostly based on Quadratum, which is this new realm between unreality and reality, and that goes beyond the factors of fact and fiction. And from what we see, is Quadratum seem to be based around on what the cancelled Final Fantasy Versus 13, a project that Nomura was working on until it was scrapped and changed into Final Fantasy 15, which we actually will talk about a little bit more in the next segment soon. But other than that, with Yuzora resembling Noctis, as well as the fact that the Foretellers and the Master of Martyrs are now the next new villains, and Lucio as well are going to be the next set of antagonists after Xehanort and Organization 13 are done. And the fact that we got Strelitzia, a character that was from Union Cross, making her debut in this game. And it just looks really awesome. And the thing about Kingdom Hearts 4 is that Osaka team, I think, really nailed the combats. After remined with the patches, and as well as the fantastic data bosses, and well, Yozora being a great secret boss. There's lots of expectations that Osaka team can take what was good about the combat in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, as well as the bosses, and just improve it overall in this next game, like have some really fantastic main bosses and just some really great combat. And the fact they've done things like bring back reaction commands, a thing that was in Kingdom Hearts 2 that people loved, as well as things like this game also going to be using Unreal Engine 5 just like Dragon Quest XII, and the fact that while there not be a whole lot of Disney worlds, most of them that are going to feature in this will be very larger than life, like say even probably so than say Kingdom Hearts 2 or 3 for example. And we got a taste of that technically in things like the Caribbean in Kingdom Hearts 3 and technically San Francisco, but those were like just smaller ones, like a small taste of what it could be. Not only that, but there's this new build mechanic, which is basically I think lifted from Yozora's fight. I mean, in Kingdom Hearts 3 we had the form changes which were similar to the Lingering Will ones in Kingdom Hearts 2 when you fought him, so it kind of makes sense. And yeah, the direction that this game is going is very interesting, and we also see like Sora going to a more photorealistic kind of style akin to what Final Fantasy looks like, and also the fact that Sora technically is dead but still alive. And you of course have your familiar things like Shibuya and Shinjuku, which reminds you of Near the World's End with You. And well, yeah, just this all just looks really exciting. Now of course when it comes to platforms, now Kingdom Hearts has recently gone to multi-platform. Like it used to be a mostly PlayStation exclusive with a few Nintendo exclusives, but recently it's of course come to Xbox and PC. There's also Switch, but apart from Melody of Memory, it's bad. Yeah, can't believe they did cloud versions. Oh my god, so embarrassing. But yeah, I do think that this game is more or less going to be multi-platform, like most likely PS5, Xbox Series and PC, hopefully on day one, and hopefully a simultaneous worldwide release, because that's something that the Kingdom Hearts series really needs at this point, especially the fact that nowadays Square Enix games have simultaneous releases. Even Dragon Quest XII is getting simultaneous worldwide release. So yeah, I do think with all these factors that Kingdom Hearts 4 is going for, from what we know so far, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. Now whether or not it'll please fans who may have been disappointed from Kingdom Hearts 3, only time will tell, but all I can say is that this is going to be interesting. Final Fantasy VII. Those words alone just ooze power, doesn't it? Given the fact that one of the most iconic and popular JRPGs of all time, and especially from Square Enix's standpoint, given how successful it is, and it has got tons of love, tons of spin-offs, tons of milking and all that stuff. And especially, of course, the remake trilogy. Now the thing is that while Kingdom Hearts 3 did take a while for development, so did Final Fantasy VII Remake in a sense. And it does seem that while it won't take long for Kingdom Hearts 3 to be developed because of the whole Luminous engine used to be, but now we switch on Unreal Engine. It's the same case with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where we can expect a more quicker launch time compared to Final Fantasy VII Remakes 1, where it used to be outsourced by CyberConnect 2, but then they got cancelled and scrapped. So Square Enix CB1 with Nomura and Kitase is in charge of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they were the ones who took over and did all in-house, and what we got was a pretty good game. Now admittedly, like Kingdom Hearts 3, I would say it's also mixed. Like some people really loved new changes in the remake while others didn't, and some people thought it was respectful to the original, while others thought it was deviated, like most of the compilation actually. But it has made some interesting risks and turns, like fleshing out some of the side characters, going hard with things like changing timelines while maintaining from the original, and the whole Whispers thing and Zack being alive and all that stuff. And we had lots of things from like the Final Fantasy 25th anniversary 7 event last year as well. Of course, we had Ever Crisis, which is still coming. Hopefully, there's going to be a beta test of that game this summer, I believe, as in American and Japanese summer, I believe. Not only that, but there's also things like the Dead First Soldier game, which could have been on consoles, but whatever. And of course we did get the Crisis Core Reunion Remaster, which was one of the best remasters of all time. Like, oh my god, if you haven't played that game, it is phenomenal, and especially is essential for those who played Final Fantasy VII Remake, especially if they want to know more about Zack now that he's actually going to play a role in Final Fantasy VII Remake's trilogy, which, there was a lot of bold things that this Final Fantasy VII Remake done, especially with the whole that's going to be split in 3 parts, with the first game taking place obviously in Midgar. Well, I think the other 2 games are more going to be, more free with their direction, more free with being able to go to places that the original game went to, but had some new twists and turns. But it's reportedly saying that things like some of the story will remain the same with some new twists. Not only that, but of course they also get a new combat system with Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it was more of a real-time action combat, but mixed with the turn-based elements, which actually was for a pretty good combat system, even if stuff like, say, the aerial combat really sucked, which thankfully, thanks to Yuffie's DLC, they did improve upon that, and I'm pretty certain that they will do the same for the rest of the characters moving on from Rebirth and the final part, as well as bring the rest of the party members like Vincent, Sid, and Kate Sith being playable and having different play styles, and a lot of people are really excited for that. Now, of course, this game is taking a more bold direction to see how far it will go and whether or not it will be satisfying to fans, and whether or not this remake will be considered good by many people or bad. So it's very ambiguous and it's very interesting, and next winter we should see on what direction this game will go, because lots of things were said about Rebirth, like it's those who played Final Fantasy Remake or apparently not have played Final Fantasy VII, and that it's where sequels they find the most popular according to them, that really work, and that there might be some high stakes, like say Empire Strikes Back for example. But all in all, I could say is that with Remake, Integrate, and all the things it could have, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does seem to be very ambiguous and also very interesting. Lastly, we come to Final Fantasy XVI. Now, this is probably the most interesting game and actually the most exciting out of the bunch, given the fact that, of course, it has more footage and more info about this than, say, all of those games I just mentioned, and the fact it has a release date, which is 22nd of June this year. But there's a lot of things that are really exciting for this game. Of course, this being the new mainline numbered entry in a while, ever since the release of Final Fantasy XV, and this one being developed by Creative Business Unit 3 and produced by Naoki Yoshida, the same minds and people that gave the critically acclaimed Final Fantasy XIV, as well as saving both Square Enix and that game and remaking it with Final Fantasy of A Realm Reborn, and then giving some banger expansions like, say, Final Fantasy XIV Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, as well as Shadowbringers and Endwalker. And that game's future is very looking exciting after the success of both Shadowbringers and Endwalker, both reviewing and selling well and being one of the most popular Final Fantasy games and one of the best Square Enix games and most successful ones of all time in recent memory. And not only that, Creative Business Unit 3 has been loved for their honesty and just overall care for the brand in general. Not only that, but Final Fantasy XVI is going for a more medieval route, similar to how Final Fantasy IX went back to medieval fantasy after having two mainly modern sci-fi ones with 7 and 8. This game also having, completely, it's going to be both just a real-time action combat, which the combat director for this game is none other than Ryota Suzuki, who did DMC5, Dragon's Dogma, for example. And from what I've seen, the combat really looks good, even if people are sort of mixed the fact that you can't play as any other character except as Clive, the main protagonist. Though the combat system really looks very exciting, using the power of icons, which are the summons of this game, to your disposal, and having a skill tree and sort of different builds on how you want to fight and approach during combat. Though there will be party members fighting on your side, even if it is AI controlled. Not only that, but the story seems really epic. It's very dark, it's very mature, and it's very interesting and very exciting. This is actually also the first mainline Final Fantasy game to get a very, very mature rating, something that only spin-offs like Stranger Paradise and Type 0 were used to get. But for a mainline Final Fantasy game to go fully mature without any restrictions of the storytelling that Creative Business Unit 3 want to tell, and having people like, of course, the people that worked on Heaven's Ward doing the story, as well as also Soken, who did the soundtrack for Final Fantasy XIV, doing the soundtrack for this game. It all just looks really exciting, and on top of having things like summon battles, something that we haven't seen in a while since, say, Final Fantasy X to my knowledge, it just comes out and looks really exciting. And the fact that a lot of the footage we see is all rendered in real time, and it just looks good. Like, unlike the other games that use like Unreal Engine or are going to be using Unreal Engine, where it's 5 or even 4, this one is using a more enhanced and more modified version of the Final Fantasy XIV engine, which they use a while, and I have to say they really pushed that engine to its limits and tuned it very well for the PS5. And especially the fact that given that this game is going for mature rating and not having like restrictions like, say, on how FF7R Part 1, for example, did had to cut the blood trail and get this goo trail because of the age rating, and the fact that this game is going to take more into a big, open approach. Like, it's not going to be open world, but it won't be linear either. It will have like a mix between, it will be like a sublinear progression kind of thing, but still linear progression, as you were saying. So it will have like worlds that don't feel overly big like, say, Final Fantasy 15, but completely very, very linear like Final Fantasy 13. Like, you'll have a good balance between the two and have this amazing content and all that stuff. And Final Fantasy 16 is also, of course, being PS5 and of course being real-time action combat. It's saying itself to, appeal to not only a new audience, but to also appeal to fans who may not have liked Final Fantasy in recent years, with things like 13 and 15 gain mixed results at best. And of course, there's a lot of writing with Final Fantasy 16, of course, being made by Creative Business Unit 3, being done by Yoshi P, often praised for giving banger expansions for Final Fantasy 14, and praying that that level of quality from those expansions are translated into a full single player game without a subscription purchase. So yeah, I have to say Final Fantasy XVI looks really awesome, and I'm very excited to see what it brings. Anyway guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and until then, Kaiser out, and I'll see you in the next video.